In 1962, Amazing Fantasy number 15 hit the comic stand. Announced to be the final book, it was there to help the creator, Stan Lee, to project the concept of a teenage youth gifted by a miraculous radioactive spider bite would gain incredible power, but learn that the great power had to come with great responsibility. This is indeed the tale of a spectacular, sensational, and indeed amazing friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man. He has become a worldwide phenomenon, reaching live television, to video games, to theme park attractions, stunt shows, and in 2002, just 40 years after Peter Parker donned a suit and took flight across New York and to the hearts of many, a film franchise would begin that no one ever dreamed would be this ambitious. Welcome, one and all, to Webtrospective, 20 years of Spider-Man in film.
Greetings, true believers. JosieCat79 here, aka Chris. Joining once again by my usual partner in crime and co-host, Eric, aka Dark Neon.
Hello, all of you. Sounds like it's a while since we at the time of this recording.
Oh yes. But if all should go according to plan, I keep saying this, you'll be seeing this different from when we recorded it. So if we mention things or events where you go, wait, when did that happen or why? Don't worry about it. All right, so yeah, we're once again continuing our Webtrospective series. The last time we were here, we were seeing Spider-Man get reborn yet again in the untold story that was told already. With Amazing Spider-Man 1, directed by Mark Webb and starring Andrew Garfield. And it did well enough that we knew, well, of course, when you do well enough, you were able to get a sequel. But the landscape was different when it came out because when Spider-Man's 1, 2, and 3 came out, superhero movies were still kind of finding their niche and they were considered like one and done things. Like you do this hero for so many movies and until he stops selling, or you go back to the drawing board every now and then. We saw that happen across the pond on DC with their Superman movies running until they could not generate enough revenue. As one of the producers put it, 3 at least made money. Superman 4 was the one that killed the franchise. And even good ones sometimes go a little loopy and have to be reinvented, as we saw with The Dark Knight. Batman starting off dark and brooding, upsetting people who wanted to sell Happy Meals, so he kind of got zanied up with Dr. Robotnik himself, Jim Carrey, as Edward Nygma.
And then that led to, oh God, which then led to, okay, we need to actually take this serious. Get the guy that did.
Yeah, he was most known for Memento at the point, I think.
That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, so
lead to its own new trilogy, which the last entry also got a little bit criticized.
but yeah,
even that didn't get a perfect track record.
now what was different about Amazing when it came out at the time, though, is what else was brewing around it. Let's go back to 2008. Dark Knight just burned up the charts. It's amazing, but we also had a little movie in May, a little movie about a C-list hero nobody really talked about, some guy named Stark.
Yeah. The Iron Man. Yeah, that was.
And then Iron Man.
To be fair, it actually kind of played off as like a good solo standing type of movie. Kind of fair that you're kind of used to. Maybe Spider-Man and Ben Singer's X-Men, except there was something different. There was like a vibe going on. There was it wasn't in your face, but there was like this sensation that there was a bigger world out there that we were only just getting like little about it.
Yeah.
And then that came, of course, about when freaking Samuel L. Jackson came the fuck out of nowhere at the after credits. Yeah, those scenes where people usually stand by. Really popular with the likes of Ferris Bueller, right?
Yeah.
Where he announced that you think you're the only superhero? We're here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative.
So we thought, okay, that's a cute thing for the sequel. And then the Incredible Hulk came out. We thought, was that a sequel to the Banner Hulk or that's a new thing? We didn't know. So we went along with that. But even when you watch that movie, the intro had like Stark Enterprise blueprints pop up. You're like, okay. But it all got sealed together when William Hurt, rest his soul, is drinking away his sorrows over a failed project. And who walks in but
Wait,
RDJ?
is that Robert Downey Jr.? Like, like for the same movie that was just not just a few months ago?
Yeah. So that was when this thing started to bubble. I mean, okay, if you guys are thinking this gag is played out, point is Marvel started building a universe, and in the same year that Amazing Spider-Man came out and Dark Knight Rises concluded, we had the biggest movie at that time, which is it's so funny how it's now considered a small potato compared to its bigger brothers that have come out since then. But at that point, that was the biggest movie you can get for you had Captain America, Thor, their movies take off, eventually leading to the big team up.
Which paid off in great spades and was also the jumping off point for even bigger set of movies and down along the line.
Yeah,
This is
so point.
this is this is how we in business call building up a cinematic universe. First, it's usually simple. You usually just take one or two, at very minimum, it should be at least 2 to 3 movies to start off with, and then you build off one another, and then you all lead up to a big climax, which of course will be the hell or high water result of what might be for your future.
Yeah.
And of
So,
course, we have a lot of people that keep trying to take this test, and they keep failing.
yeah, point is like people are going like and this may or may not be a meeting at Warner Brothers saying that whole like, listen, we had a little hiccup. Okay, maybe a bit of a big hiccup. You know, the iconic iconography is not there. Well, iconography, you have the entire DC archive here. Yeah, but we can't seem to, get it to work and everything like that. Kevin Feige built this in a cave with a bunch of C-listers. So point
But
is everyone's
let's be fair. At least Warner Bros. Is at least had still managed to have a footing along. But anyone else that tried to do a cinematic universe, oh god, I still have nightmares waking up from the dark universe trying to start
poor
up.
Universal. Poor, I mean, like someone I heard a review put it best. They said that this wasn't just failure to launch. This was the airplane sputtering, farting, exploding on the runway, and blowing up other planes along the way. That the other planes just thought, yeah, we're not even going to lift in that in that runway.
You know what the sad thing is? The saddest thing is like the only other successful cinematic universe that actually managed to pull off what uh, Marvel did with their Phase One. It was a freaking kaiju series of movies.
The MonsterVerse, yay! Which they have. I mean, they're not like shattering money, records and all that stuff, but they are consistently, working. They connect in a cute way that's not obtrusive. They're so standalone mostly, but they're still also connected.
And
And it
and
led to
and here's the big kicker: they're still going. At the time of this recording, we have confirmed that Godzilla and Kong, the actual sequel to Godzilla versus Kong, is still in the works.
which is kind of funny. I think some people do well actually saying that you can count Toho creating their first cinematic universe with their sci-fi movies in the 60s, eventually leading to the big team up with the Shaw Monsters. And if you want to get even more technical, the Universal Monsters were like the first like guys to like start doing a big, collective thing. I'm sure James Rolfe would argue that.
which is which is sad and funny at the same time, considering the fact that they managed to do it back in like the '60s, and yet they couldn't do it on their first go.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happens when you get the guy who runs everywhere. He probably insisted, no, we're not gonna. You're gonna actually turn me into a real mummy Egyptian god guy, okay? I'm not gonna fake this.
Oh, good. But
Oh, but
needless to say, that it was also funny the fact that Marvel was at not only facing off against DC's universe, but also its own universes. Apparently, with Fox at the time, doing their X-Men films with other standalones like Wolverines, your Deadpool's, and like the New Mutants. And then there's Sony over here. Oh boy,
They
Sony
actually
actually thought they had their own standing chance here.
they actually announced it boldly, proudly. This will be the start of our Spider Cinematic Universe, or Spunk, as one of the nicknames was. You're going, did you guys not think that through, especially with the whole webbing looking white and
Oh
but
god.
yeah, but I remember when Amazing Spider-Man 2 was announced, they were talking about how this could be the big, because not only were they developing that, Drew Goddard of House of Cabin in the Woods fame was tapped to do a Sinister Six movie, and then we heard things about Silver Sable, Craven. We were hearing every character, because as you know, when Marvel was, we mentioned many times before, Marvel was going bankrupt, they had to sell off rights for options and film rights, and Sony got the lion's share of the Spider-Man stuff. And not just the Spider-Man right to make movies, Spider-Man movies, but the character himself and anything related to him. So they were the ones that got to say. So I think they figured, well, hey, if they can do it, we can too. Like, and then none of that's more apparent than what they tried to do with this entry here today, because I mean. I think Mark Webb wanted to make a follow up and still do the thing, but now he had the added pressures of starting a huge universe. Hell, even Amazing Spider-Man 1 had hints at that, with that whole hint at something bigger with, there's Norman Osborn, we don't see him. There's this mysterious man in the shadows telling Dr. Connors about the boy's father being a big secret, and you're like, oh, okay, what are we leading to? And
And we were hoping to finally get some answers a few years ago when we managed to get a trailer cut out that actually sparked up some actual payoff, probably. Like apparently, like Peter Parker is being tailed around, and his friend Harry Osborn is helping to bring this to light, or the fact that secrets would finally be revealed, that like maybe he would actually be able to confront but like his parents' secrets, secrets and all that. And it's like, yeah, and you honestly think, okay, so they got criticized for all that false lead up with the first movie. Clearly, they shouldn't be able to do it again, right? 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 No, no.
uh, now the thing is, before we go into it, I think right away, you and I think you more so than me were really favorable for this movie. Even it took a few risks that you were a little dicey, say, but maybe it'll pay off in the next one. And then they tried doing everything so much so fast in the last act. You're like, oh god, like, I think all we had to do is just quote the famous tale of Icarus. You flew too close to the sun too fast.
And it's just the fact that like the end result of Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like it was trying to do so many damn things, and yet also it still dropped a lot of things that they were like teasing people. It's literally like, how do you do that? Who pulls that kind of stunt twice? And it's not like, oh, this is. And I know you're thinking, oh no, this is probably like false advertising, like how the Russo brothers did with the Infinity War. No. Look, this is actually key, crucial plot points here, and it's like you don't. It's not like a big splashy shots that are just made to like throw off like people's expectations of what happened. This is literally exactly like the last time. That's like, fool me once, I'm mad. Fool me twice, oh, how could you?
And fool us a third time, you're officially that guy. But they haven't gotten to that point yet. But the thing is that, because even before it came out, even Derek, I remember this when this was going on. I was too busy being hyped up over Godzilla 2014 and other stuff coming out at the time. But he was keeping on Spider-Man, and he said this like, "Wait, okay, so we got posters showing Electro. Like, okay, he's going to be the bad guy. That's cool. He has fond memories of Rise of Electro from the Electro's Revenge in the book."
Actually, funny thing you bring it up. Internationally, this movie is called The Amazing Spider-Man 2: Rise of Electro.
So obviously we're going to be focusing on this one iconic villain, right? But hey, what's that in the poster? Some mechanized tank that's vaguely shaped like a rhino?
Rhino, like the character Rhino. Oh, so
Okay.
there's two villains. Wait,
And what's
is
that
that is
flying
that?
in the distance?
Oh no! Oh my God, are you fucking kidding me?
Like, I
Did
feel like we've been here
Not
before.
only did you guys forget your lesson with the trailers. You forgot your lesson with Spider-Man 3?
But because I mean, even before I remember this, Derek was concerned like, okay, we got it's like you got a lot of bowling spinning plates. So on this spinning plate, you got Parker and the Gwen Stacy thing. Okay, we understand that plate. Another plate shows, okay, there's a secret. Okay, you're balancing that plate. Then there's an Electro plate, and then there's the Goblin plate, and then the Rhino plate, and then the Oscorp secret plate, and then all of a sudden you're like, are we maybe juggling too much too fast?
This, I don't understand what this. Like, to be fair, at the very least, this isn't like if they just where the Mummy did like just poured every single thing into one goddamn movie. But this is about like drawing like the very thin line almost to a T. This one.
Like it's I think it's only because of Mark Webb's, Mark Webb's directing and the fact that the chemistry between the leads is so great that this movie isn't a complete clusterfuck. Because this could have been even worse, I think, without that guiding hand, I think. Which is a
Like
shame.
you could, I mean, you complain to cows come home about the likes of Batman v Superman, but at the very least, it still managed to talk about those two. Like at the very least, like hinting, just only hinting at it, and not having those characters just pop out of nowhere and just showing up to just like parade around and taking the spotlight from everyone else.
So
But
it's
here
not
it's like, no, we gotta have a Rhino because we never had that in the movie. No, we gotta have Green Goblin because everyone is expecting that of Spider-Man at this point. No, we need to have Electro because we got fucking Jamie Foxx leading him.
oh my god, yeah. So it's just again, I remember watching it and being enjoying the ride, but after coming out of it, being a little like brain fogged because it was just too much to take in. And then the fact that we hear there's gonna be follow-ups, and maybe the follow-ups will happen, and we'll get to that when we get to that. So, uh, the story so far, okay, well, other than that, the story follows a few. Here's a funny thing. Derek actually pointed this out in the watch. We start with the graduation of the Midtown High, and Derek's like, "Gee, everyone was complaining about Spider-Man not being in high school, and they finally get him in high school in the first Amazing Spider-Man." And what happens?
And it's like, okay, we met that quota. Let's just graduate him so we don't have to deal with high school nonsense. Which,
And
to
yeah,
be fair, I can understand considering the fact that like there's no way you're gonna be able to convince like that any of these guys are like still teenagers. I mean, goodness, you're still kind of like barely drawing a line with the actor who's playing Flash Thompson.
like you feel like he should be a teacher rather than a student.
It's like, how do you do, fine kids?
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, obviously they had to do that, and it leads to an interesting plot point. So yeah, the idea is that you know Peter is fulfilling his duties as Spider-Man. Even getting the admiration and praise of the city, despite the best efforts of its tabloid reporters trying to paint him as some sort of menace. I wonder who's behind that.
But
Uh,
I guess we wouldn't care because we don't see him like in person in the movie. So who knows? Probably some J wannabe no guy.
but yeah, so at the same time, he's kind of torn between his responsibility to the city and being Spider-Man and his love for Gwen, and disapproving ghost of George Stacy telling her you promised that you'd keep her out of this. So uh,
I'm haunting you. I'm getting paid just to stare at you disappointingly. Ooh.
yeah, yeah. So at the same time, he saved somebody. An Oscorp electrician named Max Dillon, who kind of takes the hero worship maybe a little too far, and which leads to an accident that eventually turns him into the superpowered villain Electro, and Spider-Man has to deal with that. But also entering Spider-Man's life is the fact that Parker's life is the fact that Harry Osborn has come back after the death of his father, Norman Osborn. Oh yeah, he was in this movie for a hot minute before dying, played by the guy who chased the Muppets around, Chris Cooper.
Hey, Harry, Jeff told me it was not used to be green, but I didn't believe it until I looked in the goddamn mirror.
Yeah, so Yeah, so you got that going on, and yeah, at the same time, all this is coming to a head. He's got the mystery of Richard Parker rearing its head again. Apparently, his father being involved with some, big secrets and stuff, and all that's somehow connected with what's happening. And let's throw on top of the fact that Gwen Stacy is getting admitted to Oxford in England, so he's got to deal with that hole in his heart.
And needless to say, when Electro starts coming knocking, and Harry seems to also be dealing with an intrigue going on that also trying to frame him for a conspiracy to hide Max Dillon's accident, leads to the two of them uniting to have their core antagonistic nature against Spider-Man. Oh yeah, by the way, Harry hates Spider-Man because he couldn't donate his blood because Harry is slowly dying of the same disease that killed his father.
And somehow Spider-Man's blood is the key to this. And here's the one little coincidental fact. This was written by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtz, same guys who wrote the Star Trek reboots. And infamously, their Star Trek sequel, Into Darkness, featured a man with super blood. So I guess they really like using the blood trope. Oh, also, should I mention that those guys also wrote the script to The Mummy for the Dark Universe? And in fact, they were supposed to be the architects of the Dark Universe. Funny how that thread was
God.
connected.
Yeah, this thing was doomed from the start. Let's just say it right now.
Well, they wrote the first two Transformers before Doug Walker lookalike Aaron Kruger took over.
Okay. I'll at least just give it for the first one. I like the second one out of like pure giggle factor.
Yeah. So the thing is that Spider-Man's blood is the key, and this leads to everything going on at once at the same time, where Electro is taking over the city. So Spider-Man has to stop him. Harry Osborn injects himself with the blood and goes, only ends up accelerating his condition even worse. Like I'm pretty sure he had a few years, good years left in him before it got as bad as Norman's. But for some reason, for plot convenience, once his stress got a hold of him, he's just decomposing before our eyes rapidly.
So, needless to say, it's basically it goes to the same fare. Hero fights the new villain, all is well. Well, until just the turn Green Goblin just comes over here, decides to just randomly toss Gwen down a clock shaft just because we have to freaking adapt the night that Gwen Stacy died without any build up or context to that notion. Like, good God, they just like out to just who just adapts the iconic story without like understanding the gravitas of such a thing and only just doing it just for get big bucks.
Because by comparison's sake, look at Raimi. He adapted the biggest story of Spider-Man's Arkham Dicto era, which was Spider-Man No More. But he didn't just do it as a cute little, oh, I want to reference the comics so I can get brownie points from the fans. He read that story, he knew the importance of it, and he was building up to the crucial moment where Spider-Man, it's a big moment halfway through the movie when he says, I'm Spider-Man No More. Here, it's like, we have this cute little thing with Gwen thing. Maybe he has to let go of Gwen eventually, and then oh, now she's gone. Like now he's taken. And then yes, it's tragic, but that feels like that could have been saved for a more proper send up and build up, so you can really feel it. Because the only reason it still affects us when she dies is because we love the chemistry between her and Garfield, and he just sells it well. But
that and also the fact that impact. Like I remember when even the moment when his web caught her, like seeing the floor just arriving so close behind her, just maybe gasp a little bit, realizing like, oh, it's not gonna catch, and that impact, that, ugh.
yeah, so they adapt that, and Spider-Man is gone for a while, coping with the loss of someone because he lost George Stacy trying to help him fight the lizard. Now here he is losing Glenn because he didn't keep his promise, even though he said at the end of the last movie those are the best kind of promises to keep. But anyway, thing is, eventually, a message from Gwen at the commencement speech, motivates him to don the Spider-Man thing because his one of the themes he keeps saying is that Spider-Man gives people hope, and that is proven again at the very end of the movie when you know they captured Harry Osborn still has conversations with this Mr. Fierce who's putting together a team. and that involves the Rhino, who is the bookend villain because he was at the beginning of the movie, and here he is at the end. And the movie ends with Spider-Man and
Rhino just having I guess it's a fight. We don't know because we never even got to see it. Like my buddy over here, his sister, like we're just kind of sitting there going like, wait, that's it?
what's funny, everyone else was applauding and clapping, and me and Marissa had that face of like, what? Yeah.
I mean, like I get the whole intention there, but it's like, come on, don't think you wouldn't have like paid off more if you just shown how many montage of him fighting in the credits. Oh my god, that would have been so much better than what the hell they did there. Like,
And then on
it was basically Sony just wanking us, saying, "Oh, we're gonna have the Sinister Six coming." Ooh, it's yeah, fat what that does.
On top of that, if for some reason in theaters there was no after credit sequence, but there was a scene that happened after the credits, which was a preview scene of a scene from Days of Future Past.
Past?
And there's
Yeah,
no
this definitely led to confusion. Everyone thought, "Oh, this is does this be like a Spidey and X-Men are gonna cross over in a future time?" It's like, nope.
it was just I mean, looking back at it, good God, this poor movie. Now, if it sounded like we glazed over the story and didn't go into detail a lot, well, it's because, well, we go more into detail when it comes to character work, but
But
it
even
was
then, the way we describe the film, it honestly feels exactly how it was put together. It's just cobbled together from like there's gaps in it where you feel like there should be more story that was like made to actually pay off here, but nope, that stripped away all because we're setting up for the Sinister Six. We want a goddamn Sinister Six movie because oh yeah, we can totally pull off a villains movie, not like the hacks over DC that just couldn't manage to pull off the Suicide Squad.
but it's just so darn funny because you're right. Because I mean, Amazing Spider-Man 1, that is at least a beginning, middle, and end movie. You can tell there was cohesive thought. This one, it was like poor.
Even though there was like supposed to be more, but even then with those things omitted, like you still managed to at least get like a decent, very decent new beginning for this iteration of Spider-Man. Even then, you still managed to get like something new with bringing in the focus on this new lizard villain that never actually got the spotlight. I still feel bad for that original actor that got snubbed for getting the be a lizard for
Dylan Baker
Raimi's
from
timeline.
yeah, Dylan Baker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
So
Dylan. It's like best we could offer you is like have your likeness get to be the lizard in the Spidey 3 video game, which also didn't do well. Jesus, guy can't catch a break.
well, while the story is all over the place, one thing that worked out well, actually pretty well. I mean, there was a few dodgy spots here and there. Was the effects because this movie got bigger and more ambitious than the last one, like doing even more crazy stuff. Oh, on top of that, while the first movie was dark and broody and mysterious to kind of match with a more realistic tone and stuff.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, now I see. Yeah, this was definitely like you get the characters in the backdrop were definitely like brought up a little bit more lights to it. Like
More flashy, more colorful, more poppy, very comic book accurate.
probably also helped the fact that one of their big standout scenes was in the middle of Times Square, which that area alone is definitely bright. I have been there before myself. Like having all those screens like lit up around you would definitely feel like oh, like I can't tell if this is day or night now.
No, but yeah, it was yeah, like I said, it's got a bunch of crazy effects and still a lot of practicals involved. Even Electro, despite his electric powers and stuff, he still put Jamie Foxx through hours of makeup to get that frayed nerve electric look that he has with CG enhancement for like the glitter and stuff, the sparkles. So,
And also the fact that with electric, you're gonna have a lot of electricity based flashy shows and organic kind of vibe to it, if that makes sense. It's almost like it's alive, like following its master, essentially. Especially with the final act, where it's like a freaking storm blistering down on Manhattan.
Yeah. And so even the swinging effects have gotten a big boost. So you're really like Spider-Man with a dash cam on his shoulder, flying through the city. In fact, I even told Derek, I wonder if any of this influenced Insomniac in making their Spider-Man stuff.
Maybe you still never got the Amazing 2 suit, but we'll get what we have. Who knows? Maybe it might actually happen up in the sequel.
Speaking of suits,
Oh
uh,
my goodness! I don't know who's gonna guess more, you or me. Yeah.
probably you.
Well, it's honestly like I don't hate any of the movie suits. Like they're really great. They stand out. Obviously, Raimi's like no question. It's like it's its own thing. It's amalgamation of like all the best of Spider-Man actually put into like one cohesive design. And then the first Amazing suit was like a very daring design, almost to make a understandable like okay, what would the suit be for someone that's only starting this is first few months as the Spider-Man essentially. And there was that at least a little bit more of a context to the story, that it didn't go for the flashiest of it. It's more of keeping his identity secret, and mostly also to be a little more sturdier against the wind density or whatever nonsense the nerds were talking about. But it was definitely also trying to be its own new thing, trying to stand off against the Raimi suit. But now here, this one literally feels like it's lifted off the recent John Romita Jr. comic pages with
Also,
the wider eyes and like a more distinct. It's almost kind of like I honestly think it's way more of homaging the design aesthetics of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic books, where it's like he's got the
the
leaner
big guy,
aesthetic, the bigger eyes still there,
very
but like
lanky,
it's
very skinny.
yeah, it's very lean. It's almost like it's more about the agility about being inspired, whereas I feel like Toby's is more about like the power of being a human-sized spider.
Yeah, because John Romita drew him senior drew him very like almost like a linebacker physique and all that stuff. Ditko drew him thin. Romita made him a little more bulky, and I think the Raimi films follow that look. Obviously, the Andrew films are a little more Ultimate inspired, and some other artists like Todd McFarlane would make him very angular and creepy looking with his like bug-like poses, he called it. So I love watching the documentary on the Raimi film where they talk about Spider-Man because Todd's Eastern accent's really big. You got the bug fighting the lizard. You got the bug fight. It's just every time it's this damn spaghetti webbing and all that stuff. But point is, this suit, and there's some people who do criticize this suit, which I respect them, but for most general people, especially comic book fans, they say they look and that's Spider-Man, and it doesn't. Well, what's funny though is how Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit was more, let's a kid could make this in his basement, and this still could be made in someone's basement, but it's like I think he might have gotten a little money selling photos, so he was able to actually upgrade his suit to look a little more aesthetically pleasing because as heroic as the other Spider-Man suit was, it does look like he's out to hurt people with that narrow orange eyes and the basketball texture. He looks a little
Like
vigilante.
which probably influenced him to say, okay, I see. Which almost kind of reminds me of how the Batman changed from having like long ears and like a very brawler esque look to getting like a blue color aesthetic when the Boy Wonder came in about. So
So yeah, so they changed the suit. It's still a practical suit, but it blends well with the CG. In fact, I mean, hell, when you first see this thing on the scene, when you open up with him over New York flying out of his spider logo and the fluttering and the fabric and everything, you're just like taken immediately.
it's
And
it's just a great suit. And it was great to see it again uh, down the line, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So
Oh yeah, but
I do find it funny that the suit can like manage to sport a fireman's hat. Like that scene just came off so random. Like, did he really need to put that on to stop Electro while he was like rampaging through Times Square?
I'm pretty sure because humor was picking up. I think Mark Webb probably got notes of everyone thought your first Spider-Man film was great, but a little too serious, so make it more funny. Because there's a lot of odd humor. We were going like, are we still? Are they actually making fun of themselves sometimes?
Like the slapstick bit where Gwen Stacy is almost getting found out by the Oscorps for snooping around for a missing
But
person.
yeah, there was slapstick in the first one, that whole subway sequence. But
That was just that literally feels like it's natural. It's like it honestly would be how it would have gone down with someone realizing, oh crap, I have spider powers. What the hell?
oh, also,
Which, to be fair, it also happened in the first movie. Like your
yup.
fingers are gonna stick everywhere. Of course, you're gonna end up like making a mess.
And then the opening of Amazing Spider-Man 2 has that bit where it almost turns into a Pixar film with how he's trying to stop plutonium from falling into the ground.
Which I'll bet $9 that Jeff Fowler saw that and thought I can put that with my Hedgehog movie.
Oh God, you're right. They did that. Uh, so the suit's amazing, and I thought I'm glad that they chose to represent that amazing universe with that suit for a later part, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Oh, and also another thing is that, well, James Horner created a memorable, lovable theme, a heroic theme in Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Oh,
Uh, I,
are we good? Are we gonna talk about it? Are we gonna talk about it? Tell me we're gonna talk about it. Tell me we're gonna talk about the soundtrack next. Please, 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 please.
yeah, so James Horner, I think for scheduling conflicts, was unable to reprise his role as conductor. And unfortunately, I think in mid 2015, that was when he was tragically taken in a plane crash. But I think I really did enjoy James Horner's take on. It took a while to grow on me, but I did enjoy his take on the Spider-Man music. Yeah, but yeah, he chose to pass on Spider-Man 2. And I think the studio wanted to get a little more it, and they got one of the biggest names in hero scoring at the time. I mean, in movie scoring in general, Hans frickin' Zimmer, and
Oh, they didn't get him though because they managed to also bring in Pharrell Williams, uh, Junkie XL, Steve Mazzero, Andrew Kwasinski,
they called
and
themselves the Magnificent Six, I think.
yes, they did. J- Johnny Marr, Mike Eisinger. It's it's like you think having so many music influencers together would be a mess, but oh no. This is like an entirely different beast. In fact, this music is so good that it almost feels like it's like a plot component, especially considering the fact that most of the soundtrack was definitely heavily based on the character of Electro and how him discovering his new abilities is almost building up like it's a frenetic frenzy. But also, even then, it also is a uh, parallel to how Horner managed to give Spidey a heroic music and then just realizes that, okay, maybe this heroic beat can definitely feel important now that New York City is starting to like really root for Spider-Man even more in this iteration.
Yeah, and then yeah, some of it's atmospheric noise, but that adds to the thing. Like for
Oh,
example,
oh, oh my god! And they managed to do like they actually their romantic music between Andrew and Emma is like really gritting, especially with the dramatic uh end for Gwen Stacy, where it just really hits you at just matching Andrew's performance of him like in agony and pain and torment, and that music is just swelling, just like really like hitting your heartstrings as well. It's like not just only the acting, it's also the music that's carrying this thing.
yeah, and like I said, though, but the standout theme of everyone is the My
My
Enemy,
enemy, yes,
which is in all the advertising.
where like I think it's Farrell that's doing like paranoia psychic, like
Oh, yeah.
like it's almost like a whispering. It's almost like it's a psychic like monologue of someone just like oh, to give context. This is like where Max Dillon is just waking up from like a body bag in a morgue, having dropped down into like the most out there, like should we just practice like the most obvious way a supervillain can be created scenario of getting electrocuted by a new power source and falling into a vat of chemically enhanced eels.
How it should have ended kept making fun of that point a lot.
But it's like it's a very very subtle build. It's almost like a winding of like gears setting off to its big pulsating reveal of Electro in Times Square, which then also starts to flutter with a feeling of matching Max's realization that he's actually being seen in public eye. Everyone's all eyes are on him. It almost feels like kind of like a it sounds almost kind of like cartoony almost, but it's almost but it's euphoric in a way of him like having a moment, a sense of like, oh my god, like I'm actually like here. They all see me.
So yeah,
Yeah, despite the fact that he's also seeing himself as like this blue freak. So hey, that's body positivity for you.
It's good to swing right into the Max himself. Because when we first meet Max, he's a bumbling, nerdy, uncharismatic fella who's overlooked by everybody. In fact, his plans drop into the street and almost gets run over by a runaway rhino truck. But Spider-Man saves him.
I see what you're doing.
Oh, what's funny though is the fact that even Derek said, "Box, have you heard of one?" when he was having all his plants just flying everywhere.
But yeah, he does get saved by Spidey, and of course, Spidey trying to keep up his public appearances. Say, well, careful there, like almost lost a good guy out there. It's like nobody cares about me. I'm nobody. It's like, yeah, no, you're not nobody. You're my engineers out there, man.
He calls him Max because he sees it on his name tag. Wait, you actually see, and he's getting public acknowledgement. And here's the thing: there's some people who can be so socially starved that when they get any form of acknowledgement, they end up latching onto it and just taking it to almost unhealthy levels of obsession. And Max does such. I remember thinking, "Oh, that's sweet. He's a fan." And then you hear him, even when there's a montage sequence of people like calling about opinion on the spiders, and some are saying like the media is saying maybe he's a bit of a let the police do their job. He's a bit of a threat. But you hear some guy saying, "I was saved by Spider-Man once, and I think he's doing good for the city." He looks up for the little guy that no one else would look out for, and it's Max. Okay, so he's a really big fan. But when you go to his house and he's talking,
oh my goodness,
to a spider, and you're going, "Oh no, oh no," you're that kind of guy.
he also had. You also get like a sense that Max isn't right in the head, considering the fact that when he's at work, someone had ousted him and talks about Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden Max just like goes off and says, "You're not Spider-Man. Don't ever talk about him." Oh, it's like, whoa, what the hell? Oh wait, no, that was just in your head.
But yeah, he also feels a little downtrodden because apparently he had designs and plans for power grids that were appropriated by Oscorp, as they put it, and he didn't get none of the credit. So it's like that's his work, powering the city, powering the town, and no one's ever gonna know because he's just invisible little Max Dillon. Hell.
And that definitely hits harder when he's the one that's left in charge to fix a power broker as soon as everyone's just leaving off work. It's like, isn't that the way? It's like you're about to clock off and everyone's expecting you to do the work for them.
Yeah, so Jamie Foxx just sells the uncharismatic nature of him, which is so funny because Jamie Foxx is actually a looker of a guy. He can be funny, he can be, Mr. Smooth. So here he is having to play dumb, awkward, geeky, or not dumb, but geeky, awkward, socially inept, and you're like, I mean, he's almost like Jerry Lewis's Night Professor, like the play then guy before getting jolted by super juice. Well, I mean, it wasn't really painless. He got electrocuted, falls into the eels, and they're like biting him for invading their domain. And this part makes some people laugh, and it's a little over the top. As he's getting electrocuted and everything, you actually see the space in his teeth repair for some
Like,
reason.
wow, really needed to see that.
So I mean,
That's right up there with the Archie Sonic explaining, like, oh yeah, like I had a makeover right there. The fact that now my shoes have buckles, even
so thanks
though
for
you know,
that.
older artwork has shown me to have buckles on my shoes, but that we got it pointed out anyways. So
Oh, and then but what's funny is how his old skin basically becomes like a hard shell, and when he's waking up in the morgue, all that old burnt stuff is just falling off.
oh yeah, that really didn't stick to me when we were watching that. Oh, that's gotta be like an odd sensation.
It's like like
It,
a crystal
it,
cocoon kind of,
it's like imagine like your sunburnt skin all just coming off at once.
with the consistency of a rock because it sounds like it's like cracking like ceramic.
But yeah,
And
needless to say, he has a weird, funky sensation of feeling like powered down. But now he also starts to see like the outlines of like power all around him.
even Derek noticed a sweet detail they put while he's looking around is that when people in town square are pulling out their cell phones, even the phones give off their own little tiny power electricity signature on his vision.
Like you literally see like lit up rectangles in people's pockets, and it's like, oh, that's a really sweet detail. I never noticed that.
And he could touch anything electric and take the power from it. So he's like a walking battery capacitor. And like I said, it's what's funny is that the people might call this cringe, but I think it's rather inventive. I think it's the fact that to emphasize that he's electricity, then his soundtrack goes from the classical like little oboe and everything to starting to featuring, well, for lack of a better word, dubstep drops, like when he's like doing jolt and stuff.
And it's again back to the soundtrack. It's emphasized when Spidey comes in and starts to take attention away, that his mind
Jealousy.
really starts to reel in jealousy. You literally hear the jealousy playing off in the soundtrack, and that's like
He
like
lies.
it's
He
he
hates.
lied to me. He shot
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
at me.
Yeah, yeah. He lied
He
to me.
hates me.
So it's like that's his paranoia. Like I mean, most people nickname the song "Paranoia" because that's the primary lyric. It's the paranoia, voices crack, all that stuff. But so what's funny is the advertising made it look even stupider as a cause because he calls him Max at the beginning of the trailer, and when he sees him, he goes, "Hey, Sparkles, you don't remember me? How could you forget about me? You lied to me." Like
Lied to me. And everyone jokes about that, but in context, it's like I think Max understands that have like even he notices that he has blue skin and he's not wearing glasses, so it's like anyone would be kind of thrown off of that. Like,
so.
I mean, come on, I would come up to someone without glasses and people would just have a little bit of like a, oh wait, is that you? Oh shit, I didn't recognize you without that.
Well,
So I obviously had a little bit of understanding, especially since Spidey said like, yeah, I just didn't recognize you with all that going on there.
yeah, and like I said, cops being cops, one of them got a little bit of itchy trigger finger. Well, Spider-Man was almost de-escalating the whole situation, but a twitchy finger ends up like sending Max into a tailspin.
And
So
Max's conclusion is that Spidey is so selfish that he's willing to like
make him
go the
look bad.
distance of like being heroic in front of so many people just to get the attention.
Because to even emphasize it, because all the screens were on Electro. When Spider-Man saved, he took a step forward and almost electrocuted a grate that almost electrocuted a lot of people, including a woman holding a baby. When Spider-Man saved them from that, all the audience cheered, and you actually see all the Times Square screens focus on Spider-Man. So that again uh, fuels Max's discontent with Spider-Man.
But yeah, this also leads to him really going to town on lighting up all town square in a huge display of like electronic. But of course, he gets taken down with water. You know, again the little fireman gag.
Yeah.
But then we start to get to notice a little bit more of like how much he really is starting to understand that he sees himself as a little bit more than human now because he has all this power. And he even goes to like the doctors at Ravencroft that he's planning to show everyone the light taken away by him to show them a world of
Power.
darkness, a world without Spider-Man.
Because he completely hates Spider-Man, and he totally adopted the name. Because I think someone called him an Electro freak at one point. So he decides to adopt himself as that
Don't you
he's
know? I'm Electro.
And so, yeah, his motivation is that he gets his powers, and Spider-Man, really made him look bad. So he's just out to get what's his, and also Harry. I mean, he's kind of a little directionless. It's not till Harry Osborn's bringing him out that he gets like a whole thing of need, and that's like the magic
I
word.
need you.
Oh,
Which again is like someone of high power and influence being taken down to almost the same level as he is. So of course he has like that same uh, motive that Max can understand. And the
so
fact that he hates Spider-Man also kind of helps sway him a little bit.
so what's funny is that sometimes he
Plus, you
goes
know,
like.
it would also would help to get the guy back in charge to actually say, "Oh yeah, the power grid, that was this guy."
So, what's your thoughts about him being blue? Because I think it's kind of a callback to the ultimate version of Electro. I think.
Oh yeah, the Ultimate Virtual Electro was also the same thing with the whole blue skin
But he was a little more
texture.
like Dr. Manhattan glowing, I think, right?
Yep. He also made. Sometimes when he was blue, he usually is like appears to look like he's naked, but he's not. Which is I joke that he looks like a diet Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, yeah, because some people like to make fun of the fact that Jamie Foxx looks, blue and veiny and everything. Hell, like without the lights, it looks a little goofy sometimes. Hell, so it's kind of like what happened. The same thing happened to Oscar Isaac, where he had this elaborate makeup as Apocalypse in the same year, actually. No, 2 years after that. And there was a purple portal light, but the problem is it made the whole makeup look purple. So we had that running joke of Ivan Ooze with Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse.
And the funny thing is that the only time Marvel character got compared to a Power Ranger.
Oh yeah, Normie's big goblin suit. Yeah.
Although at least to be fair, that Goblin suit was a little bit more flashy and thematic than compared to whatever the fuck this thing was.
Oh, we're gonna get to that actually in a little bit, but so Electro was well realized. His electricity is really great, and he's eventually defeated by the fact that Spider-Man learned electricity about magnetizing webs and overloading the battery so much that the battery explodes.
It is like very almost like calling back to the comics, like or even like the old cartoons where I recall watching the one of the '60s cartoons of Pure really having to rack his brain on how to stop Electro, right down to the point that in the second bout in a different episode, he had to really buckle down and make electricity resistant webbing. Like he had to take off work to focus on this because like you couldn't get get through like how he managed to defeat him the first time. It's like no, he probably like getting juiced up to the point there that's not going to be effective. So I really need to make this webbing count.
Oh, on top of that, even though he's got the classic yellow and green costume that he's known for in the Silver Age, we do get a cute little reference when it's looking at his birthday cake and it is white
Oh
with
yeah,
green.
yellow and green, yeah. But to be fair, the Ultimate Electro, he mostly wore like a single jumper of his sort of color. Although his color had was shaped in the bolt of a lightning bolt, but this
Now,
one didn't. So, but I think if you actually pay attention, you might notice some electric bolts etched in the design on the shoulders mostly.
I know. I mean, without the lightning and the things, him in the black unitard with the blue makeup does look a little silly at times. Like I remember his funny soft poster they made where it's like him and Spider-Man like they're getting ready to box like ring to ring, but they didn't do any special work on Jamie, so he just looks a little a little more like Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, the bug-eyed look. Yeah.
You talking about that one poster where I think it's like just them from dead profile, like Spider-Man profile and Electro profile, like and they're like doing like a heavyweight champion face-off looking
Like
poster,
they're
right?
standing face to face. Yeah.
But his Electro looks a little like you're like. I mean, I'm sure if there's lightning, because other posters like the one like him with the hood with like the lightning around him, he's like hand out. That's a good looking poster.
I'm more I'm more partial to the one where Spidey is like in mid air dodging away from lightning bolts from him,
Oh, and
which actually became a cover for some of the soundtracks. Although
yeah, I saw that one too. And I'll say this: the aerial combat and swinging is much more better in this movie. I mean, he didn't have no reason to aerial combat in the first movie anyway, but still, this like one of my favorite advertisements is the final trailer, which has like this dramatic, apocalyptic choir playing. And at one point at the height of the trailer, when he says, "I'm Spider-Man, I can stop them." You see him just swing through the city with Electro's lightning following him, and it's like following the choir. I think you know the trailer I'm talking about.
yeah, I think I do.
It's
And
the one
you
that
know, and,
the gag, the Peter gag.
and it also definitely shows off when he's fighting Electro at the power station, where like of course it's mostly Electro's turf, considering the fact that you could just bounce his entire body into electricity between these coils,
What's funny
just
is that it
blowing
actually
them
musical tone.
close towards Spidey. But
Like
yeah, it's really encouraging that we have a lot to say about Electro again, considering the fact that the international film of this the title is Rise of Electro.
I'm
Uh,
sure the focus was just on Electro's story. I mean, you can still have the Harry Osborn intrigue and other stuff, but set it up for later movies. I think it would be less of a clustered, tangled web as it is now. But it
I,
is a
I
strong,
will I will say they had a little bit more focus on Electro in this than they did with the Sandman and Spidey 3.
even though his name, yeah. And oh my goodness, but he is definitely the strongest villain point with I mean, he's got the most screen time, the most focus. You empathize with him, but you also think, and you got to get over the look sometimes. But I think it works, And Jamie Foxx does have a lot of fun with the role. Like I love the when he's telling him like I had a friend once, didn't work out, and stuff like that. I mean, and plus I think he at times he did look like he was a little uncomfortable in the makeup, but that translated well to Max looking a little angry all the time. Because I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure that makeup is not not the funnest thing to be in sometimes. But
I mean, it was a look at the time, so.
yeah, I'm pretty sure
But
the alternative.
of course, he meets his end at the power station where his entire body can take that much energy at once, and he just goes kablooey.
It
And
does
that's the
look
last we would ever see of him ever again.
it does look like a painful way to go out the way they did it too. So
Yeah.
like but yeah, so
Although I wouldn't be surprised that like the studio execs were kind of being coy if the that last shot of his power uh, readings like going down. It's like, oh,
he's
maybe,
gone or
or maybe. I mean, we still need to fill out the slots for the Sinister Six. Who are you gonna have if it's not Electro?
yeah, because that was one of those cases where you're like they blew him up in a way where you think, okay, that'll defeat him for the movie, but the question is, would he stay dead?
Yeah,
And
because Electro has been kind of disintegrated electricity in the comics, but he always managed to come back.
yeah, but I thought Jamie Foxx made him funny when he was Max, and I thought had the right amount of menace for villain, but he's pretty serviceable. He's not Doc Ock, but levels of like great, nah, but somewhere in between Flint Marco
I actually
and
thought
Norm.
I'll say it's definitely a lot more compelling than Connors as the Lizard in the portrayal of the last movie.
Oh, yeah, because Lizard was great. I mean, Reese Ifans is a great actor, and Connors is sympathetic. But like once he becomes a lizard, he kind of
It's
just
almost like a cartoonish, outlandish notion of like, no, no, it's totally cool to be a lizard. It's like, I don't know, you're really not pulling off giving me any vibes that say that this is a good thing.
we gotta laugh though at the fact that the Electro taking over the grid leads to one of the biggest, superhero crises. Like, not only is it like if the Avengers existed in this universe, they would probably consider that an Avengers level threat.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like you're essentially bringing an entire storm into the middle of Manhattan, and Manhattan, of course, would probably have been built to handle electricity bolts to have their towers to take the bolts away from the street level. But no, this is where Electro would say like, yeah, let's not do that. Let's actually have the stores like literally middle level here.
Oh, another thing, he caused a lot of damage in that time where he overloads himself with electricity using the Times Square power cables and just pretty much recreates that explosion from Watchmen. But all the Times Square, even I thought, okay, innocent civilians definitely had to either have been injured or killed in that instance when all the Times Square billboards start falling on people.
Oh yeah, when it goes dark too, that's an eerie thing to see, because you don't even see that happening ever.
So that's a great moment. So Electro is pretty great. So villains are
I,
good, right?
uh,
Well,
well, we got to talk about Harry
hey,
Osborn, played by oh hey, this is a good cast. This Dane DeHaan,
he's one of
who
the he's
anyone
amazing Chronicle.
anyone in a superhero fandom would actually know him from the very well done Chronicle found footage superhero movie
Yeah.
as the apex predator himself.
So yeah, what's funny is how he has to play off the idea that Harry was a guy that was, sequestered and sent away because he says anything inconvenient to Norman Osborn, it's locked away. So Norman's all
I mean, he definitely gives off the vibe that like he was kind of sick and tired of his dad's bullshit.
yeah, I mean, and he does have a good back and forth with Peter that you could buy them as friends. I mean, it's not as more apparent as it was with like James Franco and Toby, where you got just that those guys were legit friends.
Well, that and also like uh, uh, I mean, you got some of that with the second one, but I feel like he's way more antagonistic when he was a little bit drunk.
Yeah. So here, yeah, you got Harry and
But like the thing is though, you have to stop and realize like they never actually even kind of hinted that Peter had a friendship with Harry in the first one. He was
kind of had to we had to like it was more of a show rather I mean a tell rather than a show. You kind of had to like you know in your back of your mind these guys are friends in the comics and in past iterations, so they figure you fill in the blanks yourself. But they do have a good chemistry, but it's like if it's still like okay,
But yeah,
you got to
it's
buy.
just pointing out right now. You realize like, wow, this is actually kind of a sucky uh, way to kind of sell off. It's really relying on us to know. It's like, oh yeah, well these characters have been friends before, so obviously they are friends. I guess one scene of them skipping rocks will have to do.
I mean, yeah, there's not enough really built to buy that, and we don't even get a one of the biggest dynamics of Harry in the comics and in animated series and movies is the relationship with his father and how that shapes him. He only has one scene with Norman. I think he has more scenes with the antagonistic Oscorp jerk than he does with anyone else of significance.
What even that was that guy's name?
Guy in suit. Oh, I just called him Richard Jenkins because I know that's who the actor is.
Oh my god.
He's not even like a comic book character or a villain. He's just a corporate hurdle for Harry and to make his life
Oh my
miserable.
Oh my god, they couldn't even make it be Agent 2s or something like that. Jesus Christ.
Although he would have been a good Vulture. He
Yeah,
pretty much
I
was
can
a
see
Vulture
that.
preying on. He pretty much was a Vulture preying on like the Magdalene incident and waiting for Norman to die. How even
Oh my
Derek
god,
says,
why does it have to rely on us to actually make the characters sound more appealing than how he gets pulled off in the movie?
I don't
Jeez.
even know who he is, but he just, like I said, he's played well done by Richard Jenkins, and he's like, corporate asshole that makes Harry's life hard. But the deleted scenes made it sound like there was an even bigger like payoff, and like Harry finally gets to kill him as the Goblin. But it was
Of course, we never got even get. Oh yeah, he is the Green Goblin in this, isn't he?
so fast too. Like,
It's, yeah, oh my God, it's this. This was definitely a studio meddling. I feel like this,
yeah, Harry
I don't,
was,
I don't, I don't buy for a minute that Mark Webb was even planning to have the Goblin be introduced in the second one.
and like I said, Dane DeHaan is a great actor, but I'll say it, I think he was wasted in this one for sure.
Like the most he actually got out of this was when he's like begging and pleading before Max to make Spider-Man bleed.
Yeah. Oh, and the almost comical scene of, you know,
Oh,
trying.
now, Fairy Godbrother, it's time to grant my wish.
Oh, I like that scene, but that's actually a good scene. But the scene that makes me laugh looking at it is the Spider-Man gets to see him, and then he's all like, "Yeah, I can't give you my blood. Oh, okay, how much is it gonna cost? Plane, a jet, my money? Like, no, 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 it's not about my money."
Everyone wants my money.
But and then the whole Spider-Man, you're a fraud. I mean, it's almost, and it's frustrating, but I mean, you can tell he's frustrated, but it's almost funny with how childish that tantrum was at the time. And I'm sure Dane DeHaan probably sold it as best he can, but it almost, okay, hear me out. It almost has the same entry as "Everyone betrayed me. I fed up with this world."
Oh my God, I can't unsee it now. It is like that.
The
Oh,
scene he's mad at Spider-Man in the "You're a hack fraud." It's like the scene when Tommy was so tearing apart his room half-heartedly, pushing the TV and nudging vases off.
oh my God.
I'm
But
sorry, I didn't.
yeah, and
That
also,
scene.
and it's the do we really have to talk about the Goblin like makeup?
I get what they were trying to do. He's sort of a goblin, but hell, the fact that the suit itself almost looks like a repurposed new goblin skin from 3 doesn't really help matters much.
Oh my God, the new Goblin suit in 3 at the very least had the audacity to at least be streamlined and skinned down to only focus on just getting revenge on Spider-Man, not to be a parading, laughing, giggling numbnuts.
Even he's going, why is he insane anyway? They didn't imply that the disease or his appearance. I mean, I think a deleted scene that would have helped is a scene when, by the way, uh, what's her name? Felicity Jones, Jen Erso appears in this movie as Felicia Harding,
Felicia Hardy, yeah.
and I think she
Well,
was.
we say it's just Felicia, but they don't actually say it's Felicia Hardy. It's totally Black Cat, but like we're Spider-Man fans. We're just desperate to at least just find any connection in the comic
I think
books
she
here.
was meant to be Felicia Harding because I think the credits call her that. So maybe there was going to be a Black Cat in her future, but not the way we would know, I guess.
To be fair, I would be up for Jyn Erso as Black Cat. Not gonna lie.
But yeah, so it's fun. There's a scene where she comes. It's in the trailers too, where she comes to like uh this will be the first time the Pumpkin Bomb is used. It's only used once in the movie, but uh, she comes to like a bunch of dead SWAT and security personnel, and there's a fog, and then Harry comes down out of the fog on the glider, and she's terrified, but he's just happy to see her. But then he sees his own reflection looking like that, and he just screams and then just flies away. And you're like, how come that scene was? There's a lot of scenes in the Amazing Universe where you go, why was it that kept? And there's some where you go, okay, I see why you kept that out. Well, there's one infamous one we'll get to, but point is,
God.
the Goblin
So,
had,
Ellen, why do you have the little earpiece things to make his ears look pointed? What purpose is that?
I mean, it's and like so apparently the spider venom made his disease more aggressive, so that includes finger claw nails, sharpened teeth, and
Like
I think
I guess needing tipped ears.
I'm
Yeah,
guessing it was
yeah,
like
it's kind of sad because it's not even close to what even the ultimate version of Goblin is, where it also is like kind of like a skin mutation, but it's like at least had the person like looking like a goblin to the point like they're bulking out.
I don't even think
Almost
they call him.
almost kind of like a diet Hulk almost, but it's like this one just felt like half-hearted. Like they were gonna go for that, but then they realized like, well, I don't know, are people gonna buy this? It doesn't look like the original Goblin that Defoe did. Maybe I guess we better middle ground it. Who cares?
They don't even call him Green Goblin. But the music.
They went to the point of like giving him a sickness that leaves his skin to look green, and giving him a flight glider and making again the fucking ear pointing pieces. God.
I mean, like I said though, his hair bleached too. Apparently, I don't know why.
And frazzled to look like it's like, oh,
maybe it's because maybe a reference to him being the Goblin King from Labyrinth. Maybe.
Oh my god, it's who honestly cares anymore at this point? It's not even close to being the Green Goblin. It doesn't even come close to what the foe did.
You know, it's just I appreciate them trying to go in a bold new direction, but there was not enough time to let that sink in, not enough establishment, and it just comes the fuck out of nowhere. I think
It literally comes out last second. Like his first act is to kill Gwen Stacy.
And you're probably
like,
going,
oh well, that would have worked if we had a little bit more build up, a lot more tension with that.
really had
Pathos build up. It's not even on the same location.
He only had one scene with Gwen prior too, when she meets in the Oscorp building.
And to be fair, Peter also talked a bit about her, but it's like just 2 occasions. He could have just like tossed someone else that was close to Peter, and it probably would have got the same revenge factor.
Oh, so I'll say this though. I think we owe Topher Grace an apology for last minute villains. At least his was better integrated.
At least he looks the part.
Yeah. So I hate to be crapping on DeHaan because he is a talented guy.
I don't want to crap on it either, but like it literally feels like he was just like tacked on just because the studio wants a Green Goblin. Because far be it from any superhero like Batman needing to go 2 steps without having their iconic arch nemesis like attached to like it's a fucking ball and chain.
All right. So there's that out of the way at least. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can still hear you, but man, I don't want to bash on it, guys. Like it would be probably worked a lot better if we had a movie that focused on it, but we were still busy on the Electro thing, so.
Like you could have still had the hairy stuff, but maybe you could start to deteriorate at the not even deteriorate. But you could have him like watching stuff and maybe try to uncover why Oscorp is putting people in the bug house and stuff like that. And then maybe as an after credit sequence or before the end, he's like talking to his assistant and he sees his hand starting to twitch. But no, we have to like accelerate everything. Like hell, like even How Should Have Ended made a joke about it. Ooh, the goblin disease is gonna get you, but you're like 50 and it took you this long to get this far. I'm still young. Maybe I'll be able to research it. Like, how did the joke go? The goblin disease.
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long while.
The point is, it's funny how conveniently after talking with Norman, he starts getting advanced leprosy and shit like that. I don't know. It's just very. You just sigh when you look at it. I'm pretty sure they could have probably maybe fixed it with Sinister Six. Who knows how? But.
Oh yeah, no. It also hurts the fact that after the movie is over, like Dane DeHaan looks like he's back to normal now. It's like not sick at least. All of these things that comes and goes. It's like, bitch, please, you're actually managed to look a lot better than how freaking Connors was still having patches of green scales.
I think maybe their hope was whoever made the next movie would actually give him a more better Goblin look. I mean, we've had that happen before. I mean, it happened after the movie. We had to happen where one director would make a very bold choice of the look, but it's a little too out there for fans. then another director would take that same character and make him look a little more different. Who you gonna? You can't kill me. Who's gonna give you a reach around? Oh, how she suffered so. Versus, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm just gonna hurt you, really, really bad. uh, so maybe they're hoping whoever got the baton for Sinister Six would actually make his Goblin look work, or just keep it and maybe hope people will buy it eventually.
Which, of course, they win.
Did that Goblin even get toys?
I don't think he did.
I know
If
Electro.
anyone even tries to link a picture at that, you're living in a daydream, kid. Probably,
Yeah.
Who cares at this point?
Okay, so let's see who you have on the list. So other people of note. Well, let's go check in on May, who's still dealing with the loss of Martin Sheen's Uncle Ben.
Oh yeah, she's May in this one is having to do shifts at Wakersea, but she's also taking schoolwork to be a nurse to pay off her peers' college fund. Which, man, the poor woman was like, I my own mom had to take school learning to be a nurse herself, and that's a really big venture to have to take in.
I think that was also done so you can give her a reason to be part of the action because she was like always in the background of the other movie asking Peter, "Where do you go?" Because here she's actually a little more involved, not with Peter, but the fact that Electro's power source affects her hospital when he takes over, you're like, well, she's kind of part of this too, I guess. But
Well, to be fair, Maya has been known to be working with trying to help people.
just like Uncle Ben did.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, but what's funny is the fact that apparently they were greenlighting a spin-off Aunt May movie with Sally Field off of this too. Like they were greenlighting a shit ton of spin-offs in the light of it, hoping to get their cinematic universe up and running. And even Derek's like, okay, what were they gonna do with the whole Aunt May movie?
If you can tell, I'm literally making the same face that Sonic made in the first movie. Like, what?
I'm not making this shit up. I know it sounds like it, but I am not making any of this up.
Just like,
Did they want this to fail? I know, but
I'm sorry. How in the world is like okay? Try making villains based off of like the villains is fine. Goodness knows you have the fucking villain Venom movies and Morbius is a meme at this point. And to be fair, I think I have a little bit more high hopes with Kraven the Hunter, considering the fact that he's more of an anti-being that just wants a good challenge. And goodness knows, I'm sure they could write a plot of like a being that's like going to be like a big hunt for the guy, but I mean, just like, what?
yeah. I see you recording JonTron. Would you buy that? Why didn't you buy that? Of course not, because you're not fucking stupid.
Oh God.
but but like,
But to be fair, we get back to this movie. Emma
hey,
is having to go through like a crisis of Peter really wanting to learn more about his father, and she breaks down the fact that like she had to hide a secret of like the fact that government spooks came into the house after their untimely death and ask questions and saying like, yeah, so you might be a traitor to the country. Not gonna blame you guys. Obviously, you're not in cahoots, but if you happen to hear anything about it, you let us know about it. So,
because yeah, and she says she's been keeping that.
she was basically mothering Peter at this point and like doing everything in her power to like even make her feel like he was her own. And here he is just looking for his perfect father, but even Peter has to say like, no, this is not about that. I just want to be able to know because my whole life is like I need to know about this so I can at least go forward.
Like that was the one scene that was really great when she sees Peter's wall of intrigue and just is almost crying at it, but she tells him basically, "You're my boy. He wasn't here," and how the way Andrew Garfield plays it off back, that's a great scene, of course. But also that line leads to her giving him a clue because he's trying to unravel stuff, and keeps getting lost at Roosevelt. So she says he always took the same D train every time and left at 6. Like every day, he was always a mysterious guy. Even what she said back in movie one, your father was a very secretive man. She says secrets have a cost. They don't come free. She said. What's funny though is she herself kept a secret for Spider-Man this whole time.
Yeah, the whole
Eh,
nurse out of it. But even then, in her breakdown, she like lets that out of the bag.
And hell, and she does have the back and forth comedy lines, like the one where he goes into a fire and comes back and his spider suit's still on, so he has to pretend he's naked. And she's like, "What happened to your face? It's filthy." He's like, "We're cleaning the
Well, let's
chimney."
clean the chimney. You don't have a chimney. What?
And of course, okay, now this one I
But
thought maybe
but
was a little
but
was the laundry sheriff joke.
oh yeah, but she does also. I think they also kind of allude that she might know that Peter is Spider-Man, especially at the end, considering the fact
Well, the
that
end, she has
Peter's moping about Gwen's death. It's been 5 months since anyone sees Spider-Man, and at that point, I think she finally put together too. Is like, oh no, oh goodness gracious, is that what all this whole laundry sheriff thing has been about? The fucking chimneys and oh god.
all the bruises at night in the Amazing Spider-Man one.
It is funny. I think I did say it like that they kind of hint that she kind of has an idea, but maybe she kind of like this one definitely cemented her to realizing that like oh my god, my boy is really like getting in deep, and he is really chill right now. I really need to step up and tell him
Yeah,
to
so
like need to
so
move on.
Sally Field does do a good job at telling it. She doesn't get a big part, but the parts she does have are really working. But it's more of carryover from the first movie. And speaking of carryover from the first movie, I have to make this joke. Dotson, Dotson, we got Dotson here. For those who don't know, Campbell, Rick Campbell here, who plays Richard Parker, he went on to play Campbell Scott. He went on to play Dotson in Jurassic World Dominion. After the original Dotson got in trouble for stuff I won't get into, but it was bad, really bad. So yeah, he plays Richard Parker because we actually see him in the prologue of this movie from moments before the prologue of the last movie. So we saw more beginning to the beginning. Mhm.
Which then leads us to a scene where Richard and Mary are in a plane and obviously trying to go to their safe zone, and I always keep mentioning like send the data to Roosevelt. It's like what's that about? But of course, their plane ride gets hijacked by an insider from Oscorp, and yeah, needless to say, the wife gets shot, and the plane goes down in a huge blaze of glory.
So we find out that through the Roosevelt is actually a station at Roosevelt Station that was for President Roosevelt using a secret line to avoid showing that he had polio. That Richard Parker explains the truth about why none of the decay algorithms or anything worked. So they made the spiders as a way to possibly, heal the body, heal themselves. That was Richard's noble intent, help people. The responsibility. Remember, that's what Uncle Ben said. Your father had a thing saying if you had abilities that could help the world, you owed it to the world to, you know, do those good things. So that's what Richard wanted, and he finds out that Oscorp is using it for weapons and making dangerous stuff. So he's like,
Oh
yeah.
hell no!
So he ends up, making the spider hybrid DNA from his own. It says only his bloodline can can make the spider stuff work. That's why it fucked up with Harry. That's why the
Which also
decay.
to be which also to be fair, they actually do also alluded to that in the first Amazing Spider-Man video game, where it's Peter's blood that like has an actual uh, good rate with hybrid blood, not anyone else that was a poor set to try anything.
Oh, even Harry, when he's looking at the Oscorp data, he's saying how there's only been lots of failures until this guy comes along, and he put two and two that Spider-Man was bit by one of the Oscorp spiders, and that made him, you know, super powerful and possible of self-regeneration and stuff like that. So that's all because of Richard Parker doing it. On one hand, it also kind of makes Spider-Man seem predestined because it only happens to his bloodline. So it's not like an Oscorp spider can get off and bite a Korean girl and make her into silk.
I mean, it's like to be fair, even the comics are starting to kind of pull off the whole thing, like, oh, it's always gonna be Peter. It's always Peter.
Like some Destiny thing, rather than a guy got bit by a hapless radioactive spider that came out of nowhere.
Like,
But yeah, but
it's a comic book universe. You always have to make things more grandiose than they seem.
so you're gonna say that the
But
spirit of
but I will say the way that Campbell delivered his final eulogy about how like he would have to like go into hiding and probably never see his own son ever again, which is something that breaks his heart. Which, to be fair, the first movie I never got that feeling that like he actually cared about his kid. It's just like kind of dropped him off and say, "Okay, you're not
good.
gonna see ya, bye."
Yeah, but here, I love that part when and again Andrew just reacting to the video, tears and all. He's also saying that I understand that this is best chance for him. He's like, people will call me a monster for what I did. Maybe they're right. That stuff like that.
And,
So
and there I was rewatching this with Josie. It's like almost moved to tears. It's like, God damn it, Dodson, you actually did make us care.
yeah, and so I'm pretty sure that's the last we'll see of Richard Parker in this universe, right? Well, we'll
Yeah.
get to. Should we get that out?
So yeah, apparently in the alternate ending of this, it turns out that Richard in a deleted scene might have survived and was waiting to meet with Peter in the exact same graveyard that Gwen Stacy was resting in.
Oh, because Derek did point out this fact when he saw the Oscorp goon fly out of the plane and hit his head on the tail, that he didn't seem to have a parachute. And there was only
Yeah, so
one parachute.
that would have been their out with that one. That would have been like, okay, but even then, you'd have to stop and go, okay, hold on. So you're telling me that like even when Spider-Man was going around, he never even gave a clue about like keep his identity secret or anything, to warn him about Oscorp like might be onto him or anything. No, he
Then
just
again,
had to wait until the death of his loved one to say, "Hey, bud, so want to go shoot some hoops or something?" Or
well, Peter does have the appropriate reaction seeing him. Like I think he tries to take a swing at him and is like, just uh upset at first.
yeah,
But
it's been such a long time since I've seen that scene. I have to imagine it's like he's always angry at him.
but he does give that important speech saying the line of, we got to learn, Peter, that with great power must also come great responsibility. And that's what motivates him to go back into action.
Wow, that what a fucking throwaway scene. It's so ridiculous that even she had to make a joke and say, like, my girlfriend died. I visited her grave. I even thought I saw my dad in the waiting around there.
Yeah, but Campbell Scott, yeah, did a decent job as Richard Parker, but I felt like all that stuff was thrown in to like say, oh yeah, we left off a mystery in part one. Even the whole after credit sequence of, did you tell the boy the truth about his father? Like something really big was going to be revealed.
Well, that certainly would have been a big reveal. It's like, oh yeah, hey, your father figure is alive still. Yay! All it was constant one that was actually doing the job of being a father figure. Oh, I guess that kind of sounds like an asshole thing to do.
I don't know. So next on your list, we have here other side people of note. Well, we already mentioned Felicity Jones as Felicia, who only has one or two scenes, but she's my favorite part is Harry saying she pretty much works for me now. She has your job or something like that. You listen to what she says, and she's the
Yeah,
one that had like.
yeah. Unlike the Raimi films or even the first Raimi film, there aren't that many side characters you even get to have stick around. Oh, there was a freaking weird doctor, which I told Josie is like, if Bruce Campbell actually stuck around to keep doing the cameos in Spider-Man films, I would like Dollars to Donuts. He would have been this doctor guy because he's just
Yeah,
like
Dr.
so
Capra,
over the top.
who's a
It almost seems like a caricature like straight out of like uh fuck, I can't remember. It's the one with the my fear I can walk.
Doctor Strangelove.
Yeah, seriously, this is Doctor from Doctor Strangelove. You can't tell me it's not him.
On top of that, Dr. Kafka is a gender swap name of the Dr. Kafka who took care of Cletus Kasady in Maximum Carnage, I might add, at Ravencroft.
Oh my god.
Speaking of which, I remember there was a set photo that got out because they were looking for scoops, and Jim Carrey visited the set to visit a friend who was working on Amazing Spider-Man 2, but they saw the Ravencroft
Do you
sign and
want
they
to
saw
see
him.
Jim Carrey as Spider-Man? Oh, no. Just visited a friend. Besides, I got more of a hedgehog vibe than a spider vibe right now.
On top of that, yeah, he doesn't physically appear in the movie, but we do get a funny allusion to J. Jonah Jameson where Spider-Man Peter sends a letter saying that maybe Spider-Man's trying to do some good, and within 10 seconds, it's a big wrong.
And I had to imagine that his reaction, him responding to that was pretty much like, "Oh, ain't that cute?" But it's wrong.
And we like to imagine that even though we don't physically see him, as J.K. Simmons at that editorial desk. Let's see, Flash doesn't make an appearance surprisingly, despite being a big part of the school. I don't even think he was there at the graduation. Well, the actor was.
No, he wasn't.
Oh,
Was he?
I don't know.
To be fair, how this film came out, it's like, would it even matter?
And he said the other side character of note, again, is corporate asshole who I can't recall the name of, that was a thorn in Harry's side.
Okay, so I have on Wikipedia,
There's Richard Jenkins is the character actor.
Donald Macon.
That's his name?
Yeah, the actor's name was Colm Feore.
And was he in the Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah.
Also, I think he was in the background of the whole thing.
But,
so let me just look up Richard Jenkins' character because I keep saying the name. See, as I thought that was Richard Jenkins.
I
It's
guess we
Colm
should
Feore.
mention that Norman Osborn was played by Chris Cooper again. Didn't do much, and apparently in Jonesy's notes, originally future plans was to reveal that his head was going to be decapitated and stored in cold storage. Oh,
Like
great.
that Walt Disney rumor.
Insert Disney joke here.
Oh, dude. So I was wrong. That CEO character was in the comics at one point. But
really?
just a personal. This is this. Donald L. Menken is a character created by John Romita Jr. and Roger Stern in Amazing Spider-Man number 239 as the personal assistant of Norman Osborn. Really became loyal and unflinching. His first task was to make sure that one of Oscorp's research scientists remove any recent traces of work. Yep, he did that. Not only did he assist Norman, he sent answer to Harry Osborn and Liz Allen. Menken was eventually promoted to director of personnel. Menken soon teamed up with Rod Kingsley to take over Oscorp. Though the takeover bid failed, his involvement in Spider-Man to consider him a potential candidate for Hobgoblin's identity. Menken at one point joined the cabal of Scryer and freed Norman from psychiatric hospital. Norman would greatly injure Menken, and Menken survived from his injury. He was never seen again. So, same thing like this movie, just disappears after injecting Harry in the arm. Which is funny how he installs the arm that's holding the gun to him. I'm like, dude, what if he caused a great needle reflex and he pulls the trigger, man?
I'm pretty sure Harry was hoping for that to happen.
Yeah.
I guess we should mention that. Oh yeah, Paul Giamatti is in this fucking film.
Oh, as Alexei the Rhino.
Alexei Shitsov.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, I'm spoken out of my ass. That's like I kind of sneezed into that a little bit, but
Yeah, as Alexei Sivich, he said, calling himself Rhino. He called himself that even before the suit.
I'm really laughing. As Giamatti said, his character He's a Russian mobster. Russians are always good villains. They have an ability to just destroy things. Max is pretty hammy. I love doing it to be like an opportunity to be as over the top hammy as possible. It really
But
was really fun.
oh shit, he was over the top. He didn't just get over the top. He went into orbit, man.
I do have to laugh that he managed to pull off having a tattoo over his head better than freaking uh, Joker in Suicide Squad.
And like I
It's like,
said,
hey, Russians are usually known for their tattoos, so it's like, it fits. So
most people I hear tend to be like saying he's a well-renowned, funny comedic actor, and here he is. I mean, people like to say he's usually he doesn't just chew the scenery, he devours it. And yeah, you could say Willem Dafoe chewed up his scenery, but this guy, like, okay, he doesn't just chew up the scenery, he just flat out inhales everything like a cosmic void with how over the top he is.
yeah,
Hell, you kind of need subtitles to understand what
I
he says.
it's really sad that I find him more enjoyable to watch being a villain than I do as Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn.
Although
But
he is
to be
really
fair, it's
funny.
like what little he's given, he just goes like to the fucking ballpark and back with it.
Yeah.
It's
Although
like,
he does,
I only got like 10 lines, but I'm gonna give it all my all. God damn it!
I am Rhino.
Oh, it's little Spider-Man's come back.
Now,
Oh, brave boy.
what about the Rhino suit? Which, hmm, what's your thoughts on that?
I just say, what's the point? You didn't even use it like a rhinoceros, like rampaging through. It's just you just be like in a mech suit, just rattling guns, and just have the same effect.
I actually said this. Like I was quoting Ironmonger to him. I know you don't have a taste for this sort of thing, but I'm really enjoying the suit.
It's like you're just only making me Rhino just for the sake of like, oh, hey, it's a Spider-Man villain.
I'm sure. And what's funny is that if you follow the game universe, there's already a hybrid Rhino
Oh
in.
yeah, there was. That's why it was like a little, that was actually more where my ire came from. Like, oh great, so now you aren't even like toying with the idea that video games are even like slightly canon.
Well, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game is definitely not canon with the shit they pulled off in that
Oh
one.
my god, that thing was in its own fucking bubble.
I love how we came with the intent of not bashing this movie, but it makes it so hard not to point out some of the ineptitude.
Hold on. We're gonna get to the good parts. We are
It
gonna
is.
talk about Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy next, and
Oh my gosh.
it's just lovely as ever. And she still also delivers just as much quirky lines to Andrew,
Well,
and
actually,
it's also
if
still very witty in the fact that she didn't lose any of her characteristics from the first one.
yeah, even though yeah, what's cute is the whole they were dating, so sometimes when you see their interactions, it almost feels like they improv it on the spot. It was probably written, but they play it so naturally that you do feel like, oh, they're like the whole like that little laugh you do. We can't have that as a the whole ground rule joke.
I, I'm kind of going out of order with our how I put down with our notes, but we, it's just so hard to not talk about the romance in Team 2. Then it honest to God feels so right. I don't want to bash Kirsten and Toby's chemistry. Like they have chemistry, but it's just fogged by some really like like kiddish like romance lines. Where it's like,
Oh boy.
punch me, I bleed.
And then, oh
Like,
man,
oh, I hunch.
and I know for a fact you wanted to throttle both of them during Spider-Man 3's romance misunderstandings. You're like, if you just flat out said this and that, you'd avoid some of the necessary drama in that one.
But yeah, these two would definitely not fall under that. They would have been like direct with each other. And, like neither of them act dumb. It's like they actually honestly feel like they're on the same page, even though Peter did like abandon her just to protect her and all of that. But she didn't like go off and try to date someone else. She didn't try to go off to spite on Peter. She was just kind of like, okay, well, we're probably just like graduating from high school. We're doing our thing. So, okay, she
Yep.
was kind of setting up to go to school with a different place, but that was more the fact that she is like of the educated kind, and wants to actually have a prosperous future. To
And she
also
did
kind
have
of support her family that's down a father.
yeah. And she had that great speech, but it's funny is I think she gave two different speeches because the speech that plays when it's intercut with fighting the rhino, and the speech she gives in the phone seem drastically different. But because one's about how precious life is and you keep on going, the other one's about how life is short and gone. But again, she's very cute, very lovable. I think we all knew the writing was on the wall. The advertising showed her in the green jacket with the purple dress. You're all, oh, oh,
Oh
oh.
God! Oh no!
You didn't even see her drop. You just see her wearing the outfit, and you're going, oh.
Oh no! There was a shot of like Peter catching her in midair. It's like, oh God! This is a scene. This is where it's gonna happen.
So, um, what's great though is that uh she is the crux of Peter's turmoil because he has Electro to deal with Oscorp, the whole thing. But he had a little picture where he writes the line, "Do I have to lose you too to keep going?"
Oh.
And so
She also managed, even though she was on her way to go to Oxford, she gets stopped seeing this huge message of it webbing on the bridge saying I love you. Like, huh? I don't remember this happening in Charlotte's Web.
I think, and I made the joke that made Derek laugh, saying like, "I'm sure there's 500,000 girls in New York who saw their boyfriends and said, oh, did you get Spider-Man to do that for me?' And he's all like, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
we're tight."
Maybe even it's girlfriends to girlfriends even.
But so I think that was the infamous bridge that he did the webbing to. That was the Washington Bridge, I think.
Oh my God! Like if the aforementioned advertising didn't make people think this is gonna go down. In fact, they did it with that bridge. It's like, oh my God, you're just like smacking in our faces, aren't you?
Yeah, but here's the thing though. Her death was so sudden for people that I think it influenced the spike in popularity for the character that we eventually got the best version of the character in the comics with the Ghost Spider, aka Spider Gwen, or Spider Woman as the comic debuted her as.
Oh yeah, that popularity. We also wouldn't have her being like a major character in the Spider Verse movies. They're gonna be coming.
But I guess we kind of. I mean, I think Marvel's gonna do something with the Gwen Stacy character eventually. But I mean, what they're doing with her now is way better than whatever the fuck they were doing with that Sins comic with the Goblin and oops. Less
Ooh.
said about that, the better.
I'm trying my best so hard to not imagine that the writers of this movie were considering to do that plot point.
Like it's that one
I mean,
talked
I mean
head.
to be fair, it wouldn't be as creepy because it's like they're almost like the same age as their peers. So
Oh god, but you don't want to imagine that Muppet guy and oh, I've got to stop myself. But like I
but I
said
guess
though,
we could have to wrap it up and discuss our lovable Andrew as Peter Parker and the Spider-Man. So
oh my gosh, so apparently they decided to up the, giving him more stuff to do because as Spider-Man, he's even way more quippier, which is true to the comics. Like the whole fight with him and Rhino, he's just like throwing zinger after zinger,
so you can call me Maisie just to call me late for dinner.
stuff like that. And but here's a great scene to show you. They do these great montages showing him like unsuiting and resuiting in different situations, or doing stuff like taking time out of his day to like help a kid pick up his science project that was being trashed by bullies for some reason.
Oh yeah.
But, like it was great to see Spider-Man, take time out of his day to help the little guy. Which
I mean,
that's
to
why
be
he's
fair, that was kind of like a. I'm assuming that was what Pierre was like when he was younger. So
plus. I mean, it goes with that name. He's called the friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Although this version's called Amazing, but you know what I mean. Hell, I think it's Electro that came up with the idea of calling him the amazing. You need something extra, like you're super, you're amazing. That's it. You're the amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't think it'll stick. Maybe if I was convinced by two other similar beings to say that.
But oh my gosh, so here's the thing. He's a little less angsty than he was. I mean, obviously, uncle died and father died, so he was moody for a reason. But I think being Spider-Man has become sort of a high for him. So he's able to like be a little more, jovial, a little more bold. But
And of course, again, it's even told in that in his suit update. It's like he's definitely kind of like taken off of that high a bit.
yeah, but again, his acting is also funny. The fact that every now and then he'll be accosted by the ghost of Dennis Leary as George Stacy looking disapprovingly at him. I mean, I think the funniest instance, like it's not meant to be funny, but you can't help but laugh at it, is he's about to go after Electro with Gwen there, and he turns around and sees a full body George Stacy standing there taking his head.
Like, okay, look, I don't have time to be haunted here. I gotta fight this villain here. Okay, bye.
I think they did that too often to the point where it became a running joke. Like the first time you see it, you kind of caught off guard when he's like stuck to the truck and he's a police car and you see Dennis Leary.
Which at least to be fair is like where you would have found Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy, like in the middle of like a police chase like this,
And
or
then
at a graduation for his daughter going off to getting off of high school. Like that one,
and he
you would understand he would have been there.
then he was there
And
for
then,
the dinner. Yeah, okay, I think we get it. Like I think he said, okay, we get it. That George Stacy's death haunts him. But they just kept on doing it to the point of almost parody. And then, like you said, I'm getting paid lots of money just to sit here and shake my head at you.
I did love the whole montage of him really trying to buckle down and figure out how to handle Electro in the future, because his web spinner got blown up in his first bout with him. He was only left with one single web shooter to help an entire Times Square out, like in one amazing shot where he was able to use his. I almost feel like he was like able to have a firm grasp on his powers more than Toby or Tom Holland would have.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though. Uh, I think he's very strong given all the flying cars he captured on a whim.
Oh yeah, he was like just easily just tosses it. Like,
I love
although
that.
he did make you comment say, "No, it's just a good thing you're not one of those cops that rides on a horse."
So, um,
So I guess
he's
he's
quick.
trying not to catch a car, but he's like, thankfully he didn't have to catch a horse.
Imagine the mess that would have made if he did it wrong. Would it look like Godfather? But so yeah, he does a good job dealing with the mystery of his father, uh, having a
I,
friendly talk.
he started to have like he needed to have something to handle when he realizes like, oh my god, I probably might lose Gwen going off to Oxford if I don't like get my shit together.
Yeah. And again, he does feel very improv, but like I think Derek thought it went a little too extra when he did that hilarious coffee intern mishap with the security to get Gwen to go.
It's like, did he even need to go to that length? He could have just like trip them up and like let them get
Look over
like
there.
caught under a curtain or something.
But
But
yeah,
I guess that was smart Kevin to make sure he had a little more humor instead of just being angsty.
but yeah, and then there's that little bit when you pick the closet. This is like the worst hiding spot to pick. And oh, sorry for me for not picking the uh, I forgot the joke she made, but yeah. Again, their chemistry works good back and forth, and again, he does great face acting. So when he has to react to the big moment of uh, Gwen dying,
Losing Gwen. Oh God, the pain on this man. To be fair, it was pulled off with the fact that when he arrived on set, Emma had to be playing dead already, so it almost was kind of like oh, what if he came in and like saw his old girlfriend dead. He never got to say goodbye to her. And, oh, okay, now
So
this
he
really
really
hurts me a little bit.
dwelled into that for that part. Um, although some might argue that the circumstances of the death itself, uh, there's some details that almost make it a little too silly. Like the one detail people point out is when time slows down is when he shoots the thread and the thread end actually forms a
Into an
hand.
outstretched hand. It's like, okay, I mean, you could have just still sold that in the fact that like the webbing was just reaching her, but it couldn't reach her until we saw the floor was arriving quickly.
And like I said, but he does do it really well. Uh, that's like the most powerful scene he has. That's why it's all the more sweeter when they finally do a payoff for that scene almost 10 years later. But we'll get to that when we get to that. And he's actually good. And what's sad is that this movie was being so mixed up and so ill received. That led to some people thinking of him as quote unquote the bad Spider-Man for a long time. And I'm glad people are finally turning around on that because the guy is an amazing actor in lots of other projects. Like just
I
uh,
mean, like, what, you call him bad just because he only managed to get 2 like Spider-Man movies? Like, yeah, to be fair, at least he managed to give it his all to be Spider-Man in those 2 movies. Where I feel like the third one for Toby was just kind of phoning it in a little bit. It's like just right enough, like, oh yeah, I'm Spider-Man. Everyone's gonna believe that, and like just be. I think I just add a little bit more comedy to it.
although the one moment where I go, that is such a Spider-Man moment. It hurts, and how sweet it is the scene when the little kid is standing up to Rhino, and
Oh yeah,
then
dressed up in the freaking Spider-Man costume, which
but then
you have to wonder is like, what's the did he make the suit with his mom, or is Peter having
but
to
it,
deal with a copyright lawsuit?
yeah, but what's cute is the moment where the little Spider-Man turns around and sees the actual Spider-Man. Like, hey Jorge, thanks for standing up for me. I'm like, just the way
No,
he sells that.
no, he actually calls him Spider-Man. It's 'cause,
Thanks
he's
Spider-Man.
dressed up as
Or
Spider-Man.
thanks Spider-Man for standing up. And like that moment made me go. I think I did audibly awe when I did it for the rewatch.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that this was the Spider-Man of the people, whereas like Toby had to work up on that one, and Tom had that, and then he lost it.
But this Spider-Man, yeah, like I said, the people were loved him, even with the smear campaigns Jameson was attempting.
Which, to be fair, I think at this point, like, who even reads print media at that point?
But so
Maybe that's why the other J. Jonah in the other universe had to resort to using video.
but oh man, so Amazing Spider-Man 2 does Garfield good so, but here's the thing. It's time to play that little game show you like to play.
Oh, yes, it's time for another edition of What Could Have Been, or what I called it last one. It's been a while since we recorded the last one, but I'm pretty sure it was still around the ringleads of that. So again, we did detail a lot of things they dropped, especially with the whole like Oscorp keeping an eye on Peter Parker and Harry having to bring that up time and time again.
There's that other scene with there's more stuff with Felicia involved, showing her relationship with Harry about, as his assistant and everything, and more with that DeFalco guy, that Donald guy, including there's a line where Harry's being arrested. He tells him it's the falls all the more faster from this high up. So later when he becomes Goblin, he actually picks him up. That's him saying the exact same line back to him for killing him.
Ooh, I actually would have loved to see that one.
It
Also,
these
here's an interesting thing, but it's really hard to tell how it could have been since we can't actually see it. There was at one point a point to actually consider introducing a Mary Jane Watson into this universe as well.
Shailene Woodley from Divergent was actually cast and was dyed red hair and everything. There's set photos of her, in MJ costume, but I don't think any of
You,
those were actually filmed.
we say they probably didn't film because, well, we don't have any deleted scenes in the extra features or anything like that. So
I think it would have been.
I mean, I can understand why they didn't want to do that. It would have really played into the red flags that Gwen Stacy was gonna die, and us like we've already done it, Mary Jane. We don't need that.
On top of that, I think it would have been like too soon. Going from Gwen to bouncing from Gwen to Mary Jane that fast.
Oh yeah, I think she would have been introduced whenever Peter had to distance himself from Gwen
Hmm.
for that whole promise that he decided to not keep, but then like after he's been haunted for what 1 or 2 times, he decided, yeah, your dad's haunting me. I can't do this. We might have to see some other people.
I wonder if she would have had said she would have said the iconic line.
Yeah, Face of Tiger is just hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but
'Cause okay,
needless to say, we don't know anything about what will happen. We don't know how our direction of the character went. We only just know that she was there at one point, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to do it.
and
Like,
the
oh,
alternate
thanks for wasting my time for making me dye my hair.
and then the alternate ending we mentioned was the whole Richard Parker still alive thing. That would have where that would have led. Oh, another weird thing is the fact that when you watch the commercials to this movie, when they're doing that scene when Mr. Fierce says we have plans for Peter Parker, uh, you see him walking past Doc Ock tentacles, Vulture wings, but there's like this little magnetic field bubble with some black stuff in it.
Oh yeah, they were alluding to Venom with that. That's
And then when the actual final movie came out, instead of Venom, it's the Rhino suit in that spot.
this movie just feels like a mess.
Yeah, it really is a tangled web. So what's another dropped plot thread? Oh, there's another scene where
No, I think they were also going to delve into way more about the secrets of Richard Parker than they did with the final product. So
like I find out what Oscar Pursuit might work is all nothing is like I see what I thought it was.
I
Yeah.
think they were going to really go hard on the Oscorp conspiracy.
Hmm. And then there's that line from that was in all the trailers but never featured. The whole like, what about Peter? Well, not everyone has a happy ending. Like if Norman Osborn knew something about him too.
Oh my god.
And again, the whole frozen head thing, and he's gonna like be revived in another movie.
Speaking of that, why don't you take the floor on this? You seem to be a bit more uh, influenced to know about what was going to happen in the future had we been able to continue.
Oh, this is where it got weird. Even Derek's all like, "You're pulling my leg." I'm all like, "Nope. This is what they're gonna do." Amazing Spider-Man 3. I got it right here. Notes for it. Oh, so
Brace yourself, folks. This is going to sound really fucking weird.
so so here's what the plans were originally. Sony announced a third Amazing Spider-Man film with a release date of June 2016, with Alex Kurtzman, Orsi, and Pinker returning to write, and a fourth film with a release date of May 4th. They're already planning 3 and 4. The series was to include spin-off films featuring Sinister Six and Venom, with Drew Goddard directing and writing a two-part Amazing Spider-Man Sinister Six, and Kurtzman directing a Venom and Carnage script written by himself. Sinister Six Part 1 had been planned as a November 2016 release. Lisa Joy read a thing for a Felicia Harding Black Cat movie. They were betting the farm on this. So let me see. What Spider-Man 3? It would have included Chris Cooper returning as Norman Osborn, focused on Peter recovering from Gwen Stacy's death. It was delayed to 2018. So here's what I was able to dig up on the unused script for Amazing Spider-Man 3. Um, it involves his spider blood being used to bring people back to life.
Ha!
Yeah. Um,
I think a fitting would be that John Tron clip. I have several questions.
and that. Oh, you elaborate that.
Oh, okay. In that case, could you elaborate? So,
Okay.
no, just keep going, man. Just, like who would have been with the Spire Blood? Who have forgotten it.
Gwen and Captain Stacy.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Okay.
those dramatic deaths. Let's just make the bean moot at this point.
Okay, so here's the Sony reveal. Okay, now keep in mind this is I'm reading this from a Reddit post, I think, and it was picked up by We Got the Most Reliable Guys in the Universe. We got discovered. Durr.
Oh god.
Yeah, but IGN. It was because this comes from Dennis Leary. That okay, this is IGN actually. This is better source.
Oh, thank god.
But pretty much in the interview, that he said this. Possibly in 3, there was this idea at one point that Spider-Man would be able to take this formula and regenerate the people in his life that died. So there'd been discussion that Captain Stacy would become back even bigger in episode 3. And it says that kicking the idea, maybe it might have involved a Carnage symbiote. Who knows? I don't know. There's so many things out there. It just let me see. I have it. I have it right here. I read a whole big thing about it, and I told it to Derek, and he's all like, "Wait, what?" Oh,
Yes, even Gwen at one point was gonna get this. That made the whole dramatic oh, I lost her. The like so damage she had stayed out for 5 months as Spider-Man for us.
oh, and let's not forget the fact that the reason it all got canceled was just unfortunate timing, just really stupid, really stupid. That uh, apparently where is it? Where is it?
What the whole being considered as a box office disappointment to set off red flags that this was never gonna work.
I think it was because Andrew Garfield got sick or he couldn't show up to a meeting, so the execs thought that he wanted out of Spider-Man, so they canned it, I think.
I'm sorry. What?
Well, you never heard about that one?
They should can it just because he couldn't make it to a few meetings? Are
Uh,
are you out of your mind? What Sony? What the actual fuck, guys?
okay, now this is just rumor or hearsay, but this is what the thing said. Um, Sure, the unimpressive performance of Spider-Man 2's box office had a role in prospect the franchise to a halt, but there's only reason the fact that following the notorious Sony hack, yeah, because remember back in 2016, there was a big hack of private emails from Sony, and some unsavory details came out about how the producers talked to everything. So, a Sony hack revealed that the reason why he was let go as Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man said that apparently the Silent Star had been able to attend a rather important event where Chief of Sony, Kaz Hirai, was planning on announcing the Amazing Spider-Man 3 for release in 2017, but Garfield had fallen sick and had no other choice but to miss the event. According to sources and reports, the email read, "Here we are about 1 hour away from our gala event, and Andrew decides he doesn't want to attend. He has a rather scruffy beard and he just wants to be left alone." So whether or not this was reality was never got disclosed, but it sounds like a big misunderstanding. And he says that he gave a rather inconspicuous response when they asked if he was being fired. He's like, "No, I don't think so. What I proudly say is I didn't compromise who I was. I was only ever myself, and that might have been difficult for some people." So, point is,
The
sadly, Amazing
moral of the
Spider-Man.
story is studios want to see the worst in people and will just go for the easy out.
I mean, point is though is that despite sadly Andrew would only be relegated to playing 2. Who knows if he could have really cleaned up his image on a third movie for people, but it just Spider-Man 2's Amazing Spider-Man 2's response just really you know was a big gut punch to some people because some really loved it, some were and some really thought, "Oh my gosh, what the heck?" Like, it's not quite the Batman and Robin of the Spider-Man movies, but your mileage may vary.
I mean, to be fair, when I watched it back then, I didn't think it was all that bad. In fact, I really enjoyed what I had. I knew there was a lot of missed opportunities, but I was hoping that any future endeavors would probably help mitigate that disappointment. But then they just decided, yeah, nope, we're canceling everything. And It's not a bad movie. I know we like shit canned this thing back the hecking back, but it's like it really isn't that bad when you just sit down and watch it and see like all the moments where you see Spider-Man doing what he does best and fighting the bad guys. It just feels like you're watching a comic book of Spider-Man come to life right there and then, and it's like just such a good feeling and backed up by that awesome soundtrack. It's like the pieces are there. It's like a few uh, Jenga pieces are out making the tower seem like it'll wobble a bit, but it's still got a sturdy like
and,
output.
and
It's still got a sturdy support there.
and some of the best human moments come from uh Webb's directing, like the back and forth between him and May or Gwen, and like those scenes are the best because again, he's an indie director with indie sensibilities, so you could tell that the parts that are janky are the parts that are studio mandated because they were so quick to try to set up the universe.
But again, this is the studio just trying to want just as big a slice of the pie as what Marvel Studios was doing at the time.
They worked their way to get to there. That's the difference.
And Sony here is just like planning and thinking ahead when like they couldn't like at the very least focus on just like having a decent trilogy. Like that's all you need to manage to get. Like they couldn't get Spider-Man 4, but like at the very least they were thinking of like, okay, so here's all the do's and don'ts we should do. Like let's just do it again and see where we get here.
I
But
mean, poor Mark Webb. I think he went back to directing indie movies after this because that's what he wanted to do. Because I think the studio pressures and that stuff made him say, "Yeah, I'm not doing this rodeo again."
I wouldn't blame the guy. I would have probably had the same attitude if I was treated like that.
Yeah. So, but again, bless his heart for giving us very unique Spider-Man movies because they are different than the Raimi films. But that's the fun part of the debate because the Raimi films does some things better than the Webb stuff does. The Webb stuff does some stuff better than the Raimi films felt. I think when the nostalgia critic Doug Walker did that whole old
Old
versus,
versus new, yeah, he was leaning towards the Amazing Spider-Man more than the Raimi ones.
but he did admit in the end that both do things that the other can't, and that's fine. Doesn't have to be this whole ultimatum of verses of this is better than that or that's inferior than that. It goes to personal preference and stuff. Like people kept saying, like Andrew was the perfect man in the spider suit. He had the build, the length, he was the humor, he was great. But Toby had like the heart of what people thought of as Peter Parker. And people said, if you could just take that part here and that part there, maybe you'll have a winning formula.
But for the time being, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with the fact that this is the end of the road for Andrew. Well, at least for the time being.
But so
Speaking of future, it seems that talking about that leak again, there was a deal going down between Marvel and Sony apparently, which definitely raised a lot of people's eyebrows and probably a lot of rumors and speculations brewing that maybe, just maybe, Fireman was actually going to get a chance to join the studios that were like pioneering the cinematic universe.
yeah, and we'll get into that more the next time we actually get to talk to our Equilib perspective with the more up to date stuff. But here's where we talk about the next iteration of Spider-Man that'll be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe when he gets plopped in the middle of a civil war.
And have to deal with the most devout, dangerous thing to be prepared for, homecoming.
Yeah, so
I guess
yeah,
they're going back to school again. Oh God,
let's
I
see
hope
if
they
we
actually
can stick
see this
there.
one works out.
All right, so any other thoughts you want to give on Amazing 2?
No, I pretty much gave everything off. Let's see. Oh, I guess we should point out the part of the soundtrack. Alicia Keys did that song of like on again, but she did the thing that actually kind of brought my attention is that she gave her thanks to Hans Zimmer and the fact that Hans Zimmer said that it was kind of like an up. No, it was Mark Webb describe the song as being upbeat and exciting. So
What's funny though is that little side thing for me that was funny.
Oh yeah, Keith did announce on Twitter and credited Zimmer Williams for indicating the song as part of the film's soundtrack.
What's funny is I watched this reviewer that does like off kilter stuff talking about comics and pop culture and movies and stuff. He named Marcus, the Cosmonaut reviewer, and he said that one of the reasons he avoided watching Amazing Spider-Man 2 for so long is because there was this one song he hated in high school, and his friends all told him that this song features prominently in the movie, and it's that song that goes for you, for you. I just laugh every time that scene pops up now because I thought of that. He mentioned that fact.
Yeah, apart from that, that's it. That's pretty much our thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 2, and we kind of apologize for being quiet on it, but it feels like this is a type of movie where you feel like you're trying to say the same thing that everyone else has already said, but you're trying to mitigate that by saying okay, well, we feel like our points could actually be a little bit different, but we feel like we're just tugging the same strings going on. It's like, okay, yeah, this thing worked, this didn't. This is a cobbled mess. Certain characters did their job right. Some of them were just last minute ditch efforts.
Not to put too fine a point on it, I think we were more nicer to Attack of the Clones in this one. Now that I look at it.
Oh my god. Now, to be fair, at least this one managed to do the romance a lot better than Clones did. Okay,
I'll give it that. All right, so until next time, true believers, Excelsior. And see you in...
that reminds me, we did get a Stan Lee cameo of this where he appeared halfway dressed as Peter in Spider-Man, trying to get to his diploma.
Hey, I think I know that guy. Oh yeah, we almost forgot to mention Stan's cameo.
I mean, to be fair, of course, we would believe that Stan would make sure to appear at Spidey's graduation.
Don't forget, Spider-Man was one of his personal favorites. Like he keeps saying, he's like him and Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse. So when you go Stan Lee, the people who don't think who's he will probably think of Spider-Man. So yeah, now we'll do the proper exits. We mentioned him. So until next time, true believers.
Excelsior!
See you in school. And find the button.
Whew.
Okay. And stop.
Okay, so I hope I don't feel like I'm pushing this a little bit too fast, but I feel like after I get home tomorrow,
I lost my parents! My uncle died! Now this? I even thought I saw my dad at Gwen's grave! I don't know what's real anymore, man!
Okay, just calm down.